Hey everyone, on this quick little video I want to show you guys how to make sure your freight doesn't become missing in the industry. It's a big problem and there's a lot of things you can do to help prevent it. So one of the things that we find is that a lot of carriers have what they say missing freight or lost freight. I like to say misplaced freight because that's really what it is. 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, the freight gets found. But what happens is a lot of it has to do with human error. From the carrier's perspective, they might, one, misload the freight on a trailer. It's supposed to be going to Charlotte, but ends up on a trailer going to Dallas because it's right next to the truck and the dock, and so they accidentally put it on the wrong trailer and they don't realize it until it's already halfway to Dallas. So then you got to turn it around, and that becomes kind of a big problem. But a lot of it is, let's say you're shipping 5 pallets of freight and they come in and they assign one pro number to it. It's not like UPS or FedEx small package, whereas if you ship 5 boxes, they give it a different number for every single box. Some carriers do, some carriers don't, but most of the LTL carrier has not caught up to that technology yet, and so they don't label each pallet with a tracking number, which I hope they get there soon because that would help alleviate a lot of these problems. But they'll put 5 pallets on one pro number, and then that pro number gets 4 of the pallets on that truck to Dallas, and 1 pallet's going to the right location in Charlotte. And they don't figure that out because, again, that 1 pro number is showing going to the right location, shows up at the terminal, they deliver 1 pallet, and then everybody's like, well, it delivered. Well, no, there's 4 pallets missing, and so you have to go through that process to try to find it. Biggest thing we find is that 9 out of 10 times when it's the customer, the shipper's mistake, it's usually because they are shipping a crate that's been shipped multiple times before, and so there's multiple labels on there showing it going to New York, California, Florida, and so when the carrier gets it, even though they have a pro number and they have a bill of lading showing where it's supposed to go, the drivers, the dock people might see those other labels, and that gets really confusing. So they just set it to the side. And they set it to the side, and then they forget about it, and then the OS&D people, the people that are responsible for over and short and damage, have to figure that out. And so a lot of times that might sit there until we call and we're like, hey, that's our freight, and they're like, oh, okay, well, it had this label on it from 2 months ago, and so on and so forth, or there's no label on it at all. And that's a big problem too, because customers don't tape a copy of the bill of lading on the freight, don't put a label on the freight, so it's just a blank box, and if there's no identifiers, it really becomes difficult for them to find. And you got to imagine they're pushing through hundreds of trucks every night, thousands of packages, pallets every night, and so when one gets pushed to the side or gets put in a trap trailer, what they call, they'll look at it later and they'll figure it out. It might be a couple weeks, but I've seen shipments disappear, be misplaced for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then all of a sudden it appears because it's been set aside and it got behind another shipment that was going to be delivered in a week or so on an appointment. It got set in the area with that, and so they didn't see that pallet. So those are a lot of things that you can do to help with that. But we'll get the technology. The LTL carriers are working on the technology, so each individual pallet gets its own tracking number, and I think that'll help. But those are some of the things that you can do to help your freight not get misplaced.